Good evening everybody, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy. So we have been discussing current affairs for State Public Service Commission examinations. And in previous sessions, we have discussed current affairs from polity, environment and economy subjects. And today we have one more interesting and important session on current affairs, particularly from science and technology. So we all knew that science and technology is a very important subject, and it is in fact an evolving subject. So, because of ISRO and Defense Research and Development Organization and other space organization from all over the world, and also Department of Biotechnology, so a number of other technologies are being involved. And if you look at the total number of questions are being asked from science and technology portion, it is also comparatively higher. So in this session we'll try to understand some recent current affairs from the science and technology subject. So we'll try to discuss all these important current affairs topics in such a manner that this discussion will be helpful for your upcoming prelims examination. So without wasting any further time, let's get into the discussion of these current affairs one by one. The first one that we are going to discuss is about the nuclear energy, that a new American company has discovered or developed a new type of a nuclear fuel, and they have named this nuclear fuel as Anil, right? So Anil is named after India's scientist Dr. Anil Kakodkar. So this Anil fuel is named after an Indian scientist, Anil Kakodkar. So in fact, the Anil actually means advanced nuclear energy for enriched life. So this is how they actually named, and Anil is named after Dr. Anil Kakodkar. He is an Indian scientist that you can see him on this image. And in fact, so Anil is a mix of both thorium and uranium elements of a certain level of enrichment, right? So in order to derive energy from these elements, they require a certain level, a certain degree of enrichment, and because of that reason, both thorium and uranium radioactive elements are enriched to get nuclear energy. And in fact, so this level of enriched thorium and uranium is known as HALEU, that means high assay low enriched uranium. And in fact, the high assay low uranium, enriched uranium has an enrichment level of 5 to 20% of the enrichment level. So whereas most current reactors are enriched up to 5%. And in fact, if you look at the advantages or the benefits of this advanced nuclear energy for enriched life, so it can be used in the existing pressurized heavy water reactors of India's nuclear fleet. If you look at India's nuclear fleet, particularly India's nuclear reactors, Kudankulam or any other place, so most of these nuclear reactors are pressurized heavy water reactors. So this Anil fuel will have a significant potential benefits for Indian nuclear reactors that can be used in Indian nuclear reactors. Secondly, reduction in nuclear waste is also another advantage with respect to this Anil nuclear fuel, because nuclear fuel is always a challenge. Safe disposal of nuclear challenge is a challenge because it has a lot of environmental and human health related concerns. So therefore, it is very important that we need to safely dispose this nuclear waste. But the advantage with the Anil is that it just generates a very lower amount of nuclear waste, so that provides us an opportunity to safely dispose whatever minimal amount of nuclear waste left after generation of nuclear fuel. And in fact, countries like India, where there is a huge demand for the energy, have been increasingly emphasizing on nuclear energy, because the advantage with the nuclear energy is that it is a clean energy, right? So it is a clean energy with less emissions or zero emissions, right? So very less amount of emissions. But if you look at the fossil fuels like crude oil or even coal, so when we burn these fossil fuels, they release carbon into the atmosphere, and we all knew that carbon is a potent greenhouse gas, and that would result in global warming, right? So global warming further cause climate change. But if you look at the climate change commitments that number of countries have, we already discussed that each country has nationally determined contributions. It is also known as intended nationally determined contributions. So India also has the intended nationally determined contributions. For example, Panchamrit that we have announced, India announced, particularly Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced in Glasgow Summit COP27 that we will be becoming net zero by the year 2070. So India is going to become net zero by the year 2070. So in order to achieve the goal of becoming net zero, we must reduce our dependence on fossil fuels like coal, crude oil, and all these forms of energy. So we need to shift our focus or shift towards a renewable form of energy, greener energy, such as green hydrogen is one way. And apart from that, solar energy, wind energy, and nuclear energy. So these are the new and renewable form of energy. But one thing that you need to understand, nuclear energy is not a renewable form of energy, but it is a clean energy. It is a clean energy, but not a renewable form of energy. But on the other hand, solar energy is a renewable energy, wind energy is also a renewable energy, and in fact hydroelectricity is also a renewable form of energy. But on the other hand, so nuclear energy is not a renewable form of energy, but it is a clean energy. So since it is a clean energy and it comes with less emissions or almost zero emissions, it is very important that countries like India should focus on nuclear energy. And this ANIL, advanced nuclear energy for enriched life, will have important implications, or particularly useful for pressurized heavy water reactors in India's nuclear power plants. And so the other thing that you need to understand with respect to nuclear power plants is that there are a lot of nuclear power plants which are in pipeline in India. For example, Chaitapur nuclear power plant in Maharashtra, and Kovada nuclear power plant in Andhra Pradesh. But the problem is that people are protesting against setting up of those nuclear power plants in different parts of India. So because of the consequences, because of the experiences of this Fukushima nuclear power plant disaster that took place in Japan, and Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster that took place in former USSR. So because of these reasons, people are strongly opposing setting up these nuclear power plants. But the advantage with the ANIL is that it reduces a very less amount of nuclear waste. So that less amount of nuclear waste can be safely disposed, right? So therefore it is a potential benefit and advantage for India, this ANIL fuel. So next is a bubble baby syndrome. So bubble baby syndrome is a new type of a disease which is also in news. It is very important for us to understand these new types of diseases, at least briefly, not in detail but at least briefly, because in prelims examination also in recent times they are also asking about these diseases. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this bubble baby syndrome, but why it is in news. It is in news because recently a young girl who is infected with this bubble baby syndrome, so she's just a 2-month-old baby, but she is infected with the bubble baby syndrome, and she recently received the bone marrow transplant from a voluntary donor, right? So whoever have this bubble baby syndrome, so they need to change or they need to receive the bone marrow transplant. So that's why it is in news particularly. So in fact this bubble baby syndrome is also known as a severe medical immunodeficiency, SCID, severe combined immunodeficiency. Now whoever infected with this bubble baby syndrome would have the immunodeficiency. So immunodeficiency in the sense that body will not be able to withstand the attacks by the pathogens, attacks by the new pathogens. So thereby they would regularly face the problem of diseases infecting them. So the other important feature of this bubble baby syndrome is that it is a genetic disorder. So it can be inherited from one generation to another generation, and this genetic disorder affects the immune system of the affected individuals. So the severe combined immunodeficiency, a baby with a severe combined immunodeficiency completely lacks a functional immune system. So there is a lack of immunodeficiency system, or completely lack of immune system. So thereby they are extremely vulnerable to severe and life-threatening infections. And those babies who are born with the severe combined immunodeficiency, they lack white blood cells, and white blood cells are very important for the human immune system, because the white blood cells and the lymphocytes consisting of T cells and B cells. So both T cells and B cells are important for the immune system, because they very often known to fight the infections. And most common treatment for this blue baby syndrome is stem cell transplant, or it is also known as the bone marrow transplant, right? So the treatment for the bubble baby syndrome or severe combined immunodeficiency is the stem cell transplant or bone marrow transplant. So babies whoever born with this severe combined immunodeficiency, they lack the blood cells, particularly the white blood cells and lymphocytes, because they consist of T cells and B cells, and both T cells and B cells play a very important role in fighting against the new infections or infection causing pathogens, right? So in fact, this severe combined immunodeficiency is a very rare genetic disease. It's a very rare genetic disease, means that so it affects a very less number of people, so at least 1 in 60,000 babies. So that's why it is said that it is a very rare disease. And in fact, this disease is also called as bubble baby syndrome or severe combined immunodeficiency, because they has to stay in sterile environment or bubble. So those children whoever impacted with this bubble baby syndrome, they have to stay in sterile environment or bubble, and because of that reason it is known as bubble baby syndrome. And in fact, as we have already discussed, those who infected with this bubble baby syndrome, so though they don't have the immune system to defend the body from bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi. So all these are pathogens, so therefore body will not be able to defend the body from these pathogens. And in fact, those child with severe combined immunodeficiency is treated with a stem cell transplant, and it is also known as bone marrow transplantation. And with new bone marrow, child's body can build a whole new functional immune system, so thereby relieving from this blue bubble baby syndrome, right? And the next topic is a disease X. So disease X is also recently in news. We'll try to understand what exactly is this disease X. So recently, World Economic Forum is set to begin a session on this novel disease X, and because of that reason, so it is in news. Now, what is this disease X? Disease X is a theoretical term, and X refers to an unexpected disease, right? So like in 2020 and 2021 we have faced with the coronavirus, right? So a COVID-19 pandemic. So that had a huge impact on the entire world, health system and the economy. So everywhere we have seen lockdowns. So therefore, in order to make sure that the world is prepared for any new type of such a pandemic, so World Economic Forum has begun a session on this novel disease X. So in disease X, X means an unexpected disease, and in fact the World Health Organization has introduced this disease X in the year 2018 to represent unknown pathogens. So there are a lot of unknown pathogens who have the potential to become pandemic, right? Now, if you look at the disease and they spread, so they can be categorized as endemic diseases, right? So endemic diseases or endemic pathogens, and epidemic, pandemic, right? Epidemic and pandemic. So with respect to COVID-19, it is a pandemic. COVID-19 is a pandemic. So there are certain few diseases which are endemic to one single region, right? So we generally don't see the spread of those diseases all across different parts of the world, but they are just confined to only a few places. For example, Kala Ajar. So we can see Kala Ajar in Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, in those states only. So they are known as endemic diseases. So they are endemic to one specific region. And another variety of disease is epidemic. So epidemic is also another form of disease. Okay, so in epidemics, the spread of the disease is more than the endemic disease, but the epidemic disease spread is not so large that it can be categorized as pandemic, right? So pandemic, there are no physical boundaries or geographical boundaries will be respected with respect to pandemic. Pandemic has a large extent in terms of its spread, so that we have seen during the COVID-19 pandemic. But on the other hand, epidemic has a lesser regional geographical spread compared to the pandemic. So these are three different types of the diseases, or the spread of the diseases. And in fact, World Health Organization introduced disease X in the year 2018 to represent unknown pathogen, so that could cause a serious international epidemic. Okay, so it could actually create an international epidemic. And in fact, World Health Organization has also placed disease X alongside other high priority diseases such as Ebola disease, Zika disease virus on its awareness campaigns. Apart from COVID-19 pandemic, so Ebola is also potentially a threatening disease, and Zika virus is also a threatening virus. So both Ebola and Zika are caused by viruses. So therefore, World Health Organization has placed disease X alongside high priority diseases such as Ebola and Zika virus to spread awareness and to make sure that the world is adequately prepared to deal with these new type of diseases. And next is a Kilonova explosion. So this Kilonova explosion is also recently in news. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this Kilonova explosion. Now, Kilonova explosion means, first and foremost, we need to understand that it is a bright blast. Kilonova explosion means it is a bright blast of electromagnetic radiation. So that happens when two neutron stars, or a neutron star, or a stellar mass black hole collide or merge. Okay, so these things generally happen. Okay, so for example, in space, for example, in a space and the universe, when whenever there is a bright blast of the electromagnetic radiation, so this blast is caused by two neutron stars, or a neutron star and a stellar mass black hole collide and they merge. For example, there are two neutron stars, and these two neutron stars merged and then they collided with the black hole, and that is a bright blast of electromagnetic radiation, and that's where this Kilonova explosion is generated. And what is a neutron star? So that we need to understand. So neutron star is formed when a star, so for example, the example of a star is like a sun is also a star. So neutron star is formed when star having a mass of more than 1.44 times that of the sun, and as per the Chandrasekhar limit, so that blows off its gaseous envelope in a supernova explosion, and that is known as a neutron star. So I hope you have understood what exactly is neutron star. So neutron star is a star, right? So but the mass of that particular star is 1.44 times more than sun. So that's only then it will be categorized as a neutron star as per the Chandrasekhar limit. So that star blows off its gaseous envelope in a supernova explosion. And in fact, these neutron stars are considered as one of the densest objects in the cosmos, right? So next is GSAT 20. So we'll understand what is GSAT-20 and why it is in news. Recently, ISRO's commercial arm New Space India Limited, for the first time, this ISRO's commercial arm New Space India Limited will launch a communication satellite on SpaceX rocket, right? So SpaceX is a company. The head of the company is Elon Musk. So this New Space India Limited for the first time is going to launch a communication satellite, that is GSAT-20, on a SpaceX rocket. Now why ISRO's commercial arm New Space India Limited is launching this communication satellite GSAT-20 through a SpaceX rocket? So what about ISRO? Why ISRO is unable to launch this GSAT-20 is the main question that we need to understand, right? So we'll understand about that aspect as well. Now GSAT-20 is also renamed as GSAT-N2, right? So it is also named as GSAT-N2. So GSAT-20 is a high throughput Ka band satellite, and this particular satellite is completely owned and operated and also funded by the New Space India Limited. So the total weight of GSAT-20 satellite is 4,700 kilograms. Please understand and also remember this. The total weight of this GSAT satellite is 4,700 kilograms. However, if you look at the much heavier, in fact, we have the most powerful rocket, that is LVM-3. LVM-3 launch vehicle Mark 3. So this is the heaviest or most powerful rocket that ISRO has as of now. But this LVM-3 can only launch satellites weighing up to 4,000 kg alone, right? So LVM-3 is the most powerful rocket that we have. It can launch only 4,000 kilograms of satellite. But on the other hand, GSAT-20 satellites weight is 4,700 kilograms. So because of that reason, ISRO's most powerful rocket LVM-3 will not be able to launch this GSAT-20, and that's why New Space India Limited approached SpaceX to launch this GSAT-20 satellite. And in fact, it is a communication satellite, and communication satellites will be generally placed in the geosynchronous orbit. And apart from that, the other thing that you need to understand is that according to India's 2020 space sector reforms, New Space India Limited is required to build, launch, own and also operate satellites in a demand-driven mode. So therefore, 2020 space sector reforms give powers to New Space India Limited to build, launch, own, operate satellites in a demand-driven mode. So therefore, this GSAT-20 is owned, operated and funded by the New Space India Limited, and it is launched by an American private space firm, SpaceX. So as I have already told you that this GSAT-20 satellite weighing 4,700 kg, it is much heavier than the launch capacity of ISRO's most powerful rocket. So ISRO's most powerful rocket is LVM-3 that can launch a spacecraft weighing up to 4,000 kg into the geosynchronous transfer orbit. And in fact, this GSAT-20 will be the second demand-driven satellite launch enabled by the New Space India Limited. So there may be a question that, so which satellite is launched by SpaceX? Which Indian satellite is launched by SpaceX into the geosynchronous transfer orbit, right? So you have to remember GSAT 20, or it is also renamed as GSAT N2. So which organization has the responsibility to launch GSAT 20? That is New Space India Limited. And apart from that, the communication satellites will be launched into which orbit? So communication satellites generally launched into geosynchronous transfer orbit. And another question is, so what is India's heaviest or most powerful rocket? So that is LVM-3, and what is its capacity? So there is a possibility that number of questions can be asked from this particular topic. So therefore, please focus on this. And next is Osiris Apex. So we'll try to understand this Osiris Apex. Okay, so this is also a space mission of NASA. Space mission of NASA. Now earlier also there was another space mission of NASA with a similar name. So that is Osiris REX. Okay, so Osiris REX. So that space mission primarily focuses on sending a spacecraft to an asteroid called Bennu. So Bennu is an asteroid. So this Osiris Rex space mission of NASA sent a spacecraft to an asteroid, so that could potentially collide with planet Earth, or it is very close to the planet Earth, and this Osiris Rex and the spacecraft will collect samples from this asteroid to analyze those samples. So you can see I've given some details with respect to this Osiris Rex also. So on 20th October, this Osiris REX, so a NASA asteroid sample return mission. So this is NASA asteroid sample return mission will attempt to gather up to 1 kilogram of dust and pebbles for eventual return to Earth. And in fact, this asteroid Bennu is a carbon rich target, and that could hold organic molecules from the solar system's earlier days. And in fact, the local target will be Bennu's orbit brings it nearly close to Earth as the moon, and this Osiris REX reached the asteroid in the year 2018. Okay, so once this spacecraft reaches Bennu asteroid, so it will extend the sampling arm as it approaches its target area, and it will collect the samples, and this mission is known as Osiris REX. In a similar way, NASA has also launched another mission, that is Osiris APEX. So we'll try to understand what is Osiris APEX. So it will study Apophis when it will be closest to planet Earth, so that is 20,000 miles. Now what is this Apophis? To study this particular Apophis, Osiris Apex has been launched by NASA. Okay, so this Apophis is a S-type asteroid. This is also another type of asteroid, and this is made of silicate materials and nickel iron. And in fact, this Osiris APEX mission will aim to observe the physical changes in asteroid Apophis induced by Earth's gravitational pull, right? So Osiris REX, so it is about collecting samples from a near Earth asteroid Bennu, and Osiris APEX is also another space mission of NASA to study another asteroid, that is Apophis, right? So it is launched by a space agency, NASA. So you have to remember both Osiris REX as well as Osiris APEX. So next, is antimicrobial resistance. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this antimicrobial resistance and why it is in news, right? So recently, the first multicentric point prevalence survey of antibiotic use was released by the National Center for Disease Control under Union Health Ministry. So this National Center for Disease Control is under the Ministry of Health, and first multicentric point prevalence survey of antibiotic use was released by National Center for Disease Control under Ministry of Health. Now, what is antimicrobial resistance? So if you regularly follow our news analysis, I have explained what exactly is this antimicrobial resistance. Now, generally in antimicrobial resistance, what happens is that the pathogens would be resistant to the medicine, so thereby making the medicine ineffective. For example, individual A is infected with tuberculosis. Individual A is infected with the tuberculosis. So in order to recover from the tuberculosis, what individual A did was he regularly taking medicine for this TB disease. He has been regularly taking medicine for this TB disease, but due to some reasons, overdosage or in a midway, suddenly he stopped using the medicine. So all these things leads to a certain situation that this TB bacteria in the body A will develop resistance to the TB medicine, right? So imagine that suddenly person A stops using this TB medicine. So when he stops using TB medicine, so still TB bacteria is prevalent, and it's still causing other problems in individual A. But suddenly he started using medicine again. But when he started using medicine again, the medicine will be ineffective. So medicine will be ineffective because the TB disease has developed resistance to the medicine. So when it develops resistance, so that means this medicine will be no longer effective. So TB will not be cured. So this TB disease will not be cured on individual A. So that will lead to the death of individual A. So this is not just with respect to tuberculosis disease. Rather, a number of pathogens have been developing resistance to the existing medicine. So that is known as antimicrobial resistance. For example, you are having common cold. Now, generally, you are taking medicine without a prescription. You are taking medicine for common cold without a prescription, and you are taking medicine very frequently, very regularly, right? So generally what happens is that when you are infected with the common cold and you have taken medicine again, so this medicine will be no longer effective because the cold causing virus already developed resistance to the medicine that you have been taking. So therefore this medicine is no longer effective. So that is what is known as antimicrobial resistance, and it is a global health threat, a serious global health challenge, right? So I hope you have understood what constitutes antimicrobial resistance. Now the definition of antimicrobial resistance has been given. So AMR happens when germs like bacteria, fungi develop ability to defeat the drugs designed to kill them. So that is the definition of antimicrobial resistance. Now, what are the causes of antimicrobial resistance? There are certain causes of antimicrobial resistance. Overuse, misuse of antimicrobials among humans, or overuse, misuse of antimicrobial antibiotics in poultry and other farm animals, because you eat the poultry chicken, you also eat the products of farm animals, products derived from the farm animals. So because of that reason, overuse and misuse of antibiotics will cause antimicrobial resistance. And secondly, poor infection prevention and control practices in healthcare settings. For example, taking medicine without prescription. So regularly and frequently taking medicine without the doctor suggesting you to take medicine, or incorrect prescription of medicine. So all these things will cause antimicrobial resistance. And even effluent discharge from hospitals, industries, pharmaceutical industries, and urban settlements will also pollute water, will also pollute soil, and that will also cause antimicrobial resistance. And even confusion over treatment guidelines may also cause antimicrobial resistance. For example, optimal duration of antibiotic therapy for common infections like pneumonia was not established for decades, right? So because of that reason, patients generally take medicine for a longer durations, and that's where the antimicrobial resistance has been becoming more and more rampant, and it has been even killing people, and it has even been increasing the out-of-pocket healthcare expenditure of individuals, particularly on medicine. So therefore, antimicrobial resistance is a major challenge that has to be urgently tackled. So the news is that the first multicentric point prevalence survey of antibiotics is released by National Center for Disease Control, and this National Center for Disease Control is under Union Health Ministry. So next one is graphene. So we'll try to understand what exactly is a graphene. Okay, so graphene is a material. So there are a lot of advantages with graphene. So we'll try to understand those advantages of graphene. So Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology so recently launched a Center of Excellence in Intelligent Internet of Things, and India's first graphene center, so that is India Innovation Center for Graphene in Kerala. So which ministry has launched? Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has launched this India Innovation Center for Graphene in Kerala. So some details with respect to graphene. So graphene is in news. Graphene is also very, very important, right? So graphene is essentially derived from graphite, right? So this graphite is a material that is found in pencil lead. Okay, so graphene is derived from what? It is derived from graphite. So it is derived from graphite, and generally we find this material in pencil lead. And in fact, just 1 mm of graphite contains some 3 million layers of graphene. So you can imagine, so 1 mm is a very small, but this 1 mm of graphite can contain around 3 million layers of graphene. 3 million layers of graphene. And in fact, it is a 1 atom thick layer of carbon atoms arranged in a hexagonal lattice like a honeycomb. So this graphene is arranged like a hexagonal lattice like honeycomb, and in fact it is a 2-dimensional form allotrope of carbon. This graphene is a 2-dimensional form of allotrope of carbon. So you can see that this is how graphene is arranged. It is a single atom layer, and graphene is also known as a wonder material. So you may get a question that a wonder material recently seen in news. So what is known as a wonder material? That is graphene, which is derived from graphite. However, so this material graphene has a lot of applications. So applications and special features of graphene including it is very, very transparent, and secondly it is very strong. So it is 200 times stronger than steel. So that is the advantage of graphene. And thirdly, it is also very, very flexible. That means it has a very low levels of density, and because of a lower levels of density, graphene will be able to stretch to a greatest lengths without fracturing. So since graphene is a very strong, it can be used in space, automobile, and other different areas. It is very flexible, it is very strong, it is very transparent, and in fact graphene is 7x lighter than air and 10,000 times lighter than paper, right? So that much lightweight graphene actually has. And graphene blocks all liquids, gases, despite being a very thin material. And graphene is also performs as a superconductor at a room temperature, right? So it can be a superconductor at the room temperature, and graphene is very thin. It is just 1 million times thinner than the strand of hair, right? So you just take a strand of hair, and graphene is 1 million times thinner than strand of hair. So because of all these reasons, graphene has a lot of applications, and that's why it is known as a wonder material. Graphene is known as a wonder material. Next is lithium. So we'll try to understand some relevant aspects with respect to lithium, why it is in news. So it is in news because recently India and Argentina signed an agreement for a lithium exploration and mining project in India. Now understand one thing is that lithium is a critical mineral for India. So it is a critical mineral for India, and in recent times the importance of lithium or the demand for lithium has been increasing on a large scale, particularly because of the electric vehicle battery manufacturing. Lithium is used as a very important element, right? So a world over, electric vehicles have been getting a lot of importance, and because of that reason, so the demand for lithium is also increasing, and India is also looking for lithium in other countries apart from India. So however, Argentina has one of the world's largest reserves of lithium, and because of that particular reason, so India has been engaging with Argentina for the extraction of lithium. So as part of this, India and Argentina signed an agreement for the lithium exploration and mining project in Argentina. Some details with respect to lithium. So lithium is also known as white gold. So it looks like a white powder. So because of that reason, it is also known as a white gold. Lithium is a soft silver white alkali metal, and it has a lowest density of all metals. Okay, so lithium has the lowest density of all metals, and lithium is a soft silvery white alkali metal, and it has a lowest density of all metals, and it also reacts vigorously with water. And in fact, lithium metal is made into alloys with aluminium and magnesium to particularly improve their strength and also making them more and more lighter. Now what are alloys? So alloys are elements which are being metals which are being mixed with the other metals, right? For example, in gold, copper is an alloy. To some extent, copper is being mixed with the gold. So copper is an alloy, and in a similar way, lithium is also an alloy with aluminium and magnesium. So that will further improve the strength of the things which are being made with aluminium and magnesium, and also they would be light in weight, so lighter in weight. However, lithium does not occur as a metal in nature, right? So it will not directly occur as a metal in the nature, but it is found combined with in small amounts in nearly all igneous rocks in the waters of many mineral springs. And in fact, spodumene, petalite, lepidolite and amblygonite are important minerals which contain lithium. So these are some important minerals which contain lithium. And if you look at the lithium reserves in India, so there are some states in India where we have a lithium reserves. For example, recently Jammu and Kashmir lithium reserves are found. Rajasthan is also a state with the lithium reserves. Arunachal Pradesh also has lithium reserves. Meghalaya has lithium reserves. Nagaland a trace amounts of lithium reserves. Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand. So these are some states with lithium reserves. So it is very important that you need to remember all these states because they have the lithium reserves. And when we talk about lithium in India, so it is being identified as a critical and strategic mineral under Mines and Minerals Development Regulation Amendment Act of 2023. So therefore, lithium is a very important mineral. It is a critical mineral and strategic mineral because of its applications. However, India meets the lithium demand through 100% import. So, as of now, we are not producing lithium from our country. So 100% of the lithium usage in India is imported from other countries, mostly from China and Hong Kong. Right? So we are sourcing lithium from China and Hong Kong because of supply chain resilience. We have been emphasizing on supply chain resilience. So we don't want it to depend on one single country to secure our critical supplies. And as part of this, India recently signed an agreement with Argentina to explore lithium so that we would have a regular and reliable supply of lithium, and that will help us boost our electric vehicle manufacturing and also lithium applications in other industries. So, in the world, there are 3 countries. So these 3 countries come together, they form lithium triangle. So we'll try to understand what is this lithium triangle and where it is located. So one thing that you need to understand, this lithium triangle is located in South America. Right? So it is located in South America. So this lithium triangle is an intersection of Chile, Bolivia and northwest Argentina. Right? So 3 countries. Right? So you have to remember this CAP: Chile, Argentina and Bolivia. So these 3 countries come together, they form lithium triangle. Right? So they together form lithium triangle because these 3 countries have world's largest reserves of lithium, and because of that reason this is known as lithium triangle. So you just remember this by CAB. Okay, so in fact these 3 countries, Chile, Argentina and Bolivia, have taken different approaches to exploit lithium, and it is also referred to as white gold that we just understood. And in fact, approximately 66% of the world's lithium reserves are found in South America. Okay, so 66% of global lithium reserves are found in South America alone, particularly these 3 countries. And in fact, due to high altitude salt flats, South American nations are the main suppliers of lithium with vast deposits or huge deposits, right? So in fact, there are a number of other countries in South America such as Peru as well. So they have discovered these lithium mines, okay, because in recent times the demand for the electric vehicles has been increasing across the world, right? So it has been increasing across the world, and because of that reason more and more countries have been looking for the lithium, because lithium is used to make batteries in the electric vehicles, right? So I hope you have understood this lithium triangle. So lithium triangle consisting, or it is located in 3 countries, so Chile, Argentina and Bolivia. Next article is fourth industrial revolution. So will I try to understand what exactly is this fourth industrial revolution and why it is in news. So recently Telangana signs an agreement with the World Economic Forum for setting up Center for Industrial Revolution in Hyderabad. So this is also known as Center for Industrial Revolution, and this Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution is established in which city? It is established in Hyderabad, Telangana. So Hyderabad, Telangana. And in fact, what is fourth industrial revolution? So that will we will briefly understand about fourth industrial revolution. So the term was coined by Klaus Schwab. Okay, so Klaus Schwab was the founder of World Economic Forum, and he coined the term of fourth industrial revolution in the year 2016. So he was the person who coined the term fourth industrial revolution. So fourth industrial revolution actually means a digital transformation of the manufacturing industry. So manufacturing industry, but in that particular manufacturing industry, there will be a digital transformation, particularly artificial intelligence will be used, robotics will be used, Internet of Things will be used for additive manufacturing, and virtual reality, Internet of Things. So all these new technologies will be used to revolutionize manufacturing. That is known as the fourth industrial revolution, and those manufacturing industries or factories are also known as smart factories because they use artificial intelligence, they use robotics, virtual reality, Internet of Things. So all these things are being used by those industries. Because of that particular reason, they are also known as smart factories. Though these smart factories are fully connected with the cyber physical systems that merge the physical and the digital aspects as well. So we all knew that as of now we have three industrial revolutions, and now we are embarking on fourth industrial revolution. So in fourth industrial revolution, we are going to have a digital transformation of manufacturing using artificial intelligence, virtual reality, Internet of Things, robotics, and all these technologies. And all these technologies will make these manufacturing units as smart factories. And third industrial revolution focused on electronics, right? So it focused on electronics. And second industrial revolution focused on energy, particularly the electricity and power. First industrial revolution focused on steam based manufacturing, right? So steam based manufacturing. So these are first, second, third, and fourth industrial revolution. So I hope you have understood this. Next is about International Space Station. So why International Space Station is in news? So it is also very important. So recently Russia has extended its cross-flight program with NASA for transporting astronauts to the International Space Station until 2025, and because of that particular reason it is in news. So recently this International Space Station is also in news because Sunita Williams, so one of NASA's astronauts, stuck in the International Space Station, right? So because of some technical issues, Sunita Williams, NASA was unable to bring back Sunita Williams back to Earth. So because of that reason also this International Space Station is also in news. Recently Russia has extended its cross-flight program with NASA, transporting astronauts to the International Space Station until 2025. So some details with respect to International Space Station. So International Space Station is a habitable artificial satellite in a low Earth orbit, right? So it is just 370 to 460 kilometer above the Earth. So that is known as a low Earth orbit. So this International Space Station revolves around the planet Earth in the low Earth orbit at 370 to 460 kilometers. So who are the key partners in this International Space Station program? The European countries, which are being represented by European Space Agency, United States, so particularly NASA, which is National Aeronautics and Space Administration, Japan Aerospace and Exploration Agency, right? These are some key partners. So European countries, United States, Japan, and Canada, Russia. So Russia Space Agency is Roscosmos, and Canada Space Agency is Canadian Space Agency. So these are 5 different space agencies which have come together to take part in the International Space Station program. And in fact, the first component of the International Space Station was launched into orbit way back in the year 1998, and new modules were also added recently as 2021. Right? So in fact, this International Space Station will continue to be working as a laboratory and outpost in orbit until at least 2030. So this International Space Station will work at least 2030, and in this International Space Station 5 different space agencies are part of. So this is not entirely belong to Russia, this is not entirely belong to NASA, US, right? So 5 agencies are involved: USA, Europe, Japan, Canada, and Russia. Right? So when it was launched, as I've already told you, that the first component of this International Space Station was launched in the year 1982 from Kazakhstan. The mission life, okay, so a mission life is expected to operate till 2030. Okay, so it orbits in the low Earth orbit of the Earth at an average altitude of 400 km, and it circles globe every 90 to 30 minutes. And the size of the International Space Station is 450 tons, and components of the International Space Station are divided into 2 different sections. So one section is Russian orbital segment, which is operated by Russia, and another section is United States orbital segment, so that is run by United States and other countries. Now, what is the significance of International Space Station? So the significance is that it serves as a microgravity or zero gravity and space environment research laboratory for the world, and more than 3,000 experiments have been conducted on board International Space Station, and that is why it is very significant and very important. However, India is not part of this International Space Station, but India has aspirations to have its own space station by the year 2035, right? So India has been planning to develop its own space station by the year 2035, which would have a 20-ton weight, and it would orbit an altitude of 4,000 kilometers above Earth, where astronauts could stay for 15 to 20 days. And in fact, so NASA and ISRO to launch a joint mission to International Space Station 2024, but this has not yet happened. Okay, so however, as of now, China has its own space station, right? So China has its own space station, and after Russia-Ukraine war also, Russia announced that it is going to have a separate space station apart from International Space Station because of some issues between all these different countries. And next is X-ray polarimeter satellite, which is also known as XPOSat. So we'll try to understand what is this XPOSat and why it is important. So recently, Indian Space Research Organization has successfully launched X-ray polarimeter satellite. So this is also known as XPOSat through Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle C-58. And PSLV is also known as workhorse of ISRO. Right, so it is also known as workhorse of ISRO because of its huge success rate. It is known as workhorse of ISRO, and this XPOSat X-ray polarimeter satellite is launched through the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle C-58 by ISRO. And what is this X-ray polarimeter satellite? Or it is also known as XPOSat. Now, XPOSat is the first dedicated satellite launched by ISRO to carry out research and also to measure X-ray emissions from the celestial sources like black holes and neutron stars. Now, why it is significant that it is the first dedicated satellite launched by ISRO to particularly conduct research or carry out research and even measure X-ray emissions that are emitted by other celestial bodies such as black holes and neutron stars. And in fact, in the world, ISRO's XPOSat is the second satellite after the US satellite, which specifically studies these neutron stars and black holes, right? So it is the second satellite in the world to study X-ray polarization, and first being NASA's Imaging X-ray Polarimeter Explorer that was launched in the year 2021. And in fact, if you look at the payloads which are being used in this X-ray polarimeter satellite, so POLIX, so polarimeter instrument X-rays to measure polarization of X-rays in the energy band 830 keV. It is expected to observe about 40 bright astronomical sources during the mission's lifetime of about 5 years. So mission's total life is 5 years, and it is going to observe about 40 bright astronomical sources. So I hope you have understood. First thing is that this X-ray polarimeter satellite is launched by ISRO through PSLV C58. Secondly, this X-ray polarimeter satellite is also known as XPOSat. So it study or carry out research, or it measure the X-ray emissions generated from the celestial sources such as black holes and neutrons stars, and it is the first such type of a satellite launched by ISRO, but second satellite in the world after USA's Imaging X-ray Polarimeter Explorer, right? And next is Cartosat 2. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this Cartosat 2. So ISRO has confirmed successful deorbiting and also atmospheric re-entry of Cartosat 2 at its end life. Now, Cartosat is a satellite that was launched by ISRO in the year 2007, and it was placed in sun synchronous orbit, and it is an advanced remote sensing satellite, and it is capable of providing scene specific spot imagery, right? So once the mission life of any satellite ends, so deorbiting of that satellite is very important to prevent the space junk, so that could harm the other satellites and communication systems, and because of that reason deorbiting has to be done. So this Cartosat deorbiting has also successfully done by ISRO. Okay, so ISRO lowered its perigee. So there are two different points, one is perigee and another point is apogee. So perigee is the point of the orbit, for example Earth. So within Earth, so there are two different points, right? So this is apogee and perigee. So perigee is a point on the orbit of a satellite at which it is very nearest to the Earth, right? So this is perigee point, and it is apogee point, so this point, right? So ISRO lowered its perigee. So perigee is a point of orbit, a satellite at which it is nearest to the Earth, using leftover fuel to comply with the international guidelines on space debris mitigation. So deorbiting of Cartosat 2, it represents a significant step for ISRO in ensuring long-term sustainability of the outer space activities. So long-term sustainability of outer space activities is because, so if you don't deorbit these satellites, so they cause they harm the communication systems, right? So they destabilize the other satellites, they impact other satellites also. Because of that reason, so deorbiting is very important. Next is recently World Health Organization launched global initiative on digital health. Now there may be a question that which organization has launched global initiative on digital health. It is World Health Organization that has launched global initiative on digital health. So the initiative was earlier announced at the G20 Health Ministers meeting in India. And in fact, this global initiative on digital health will be World Health Organization managed network of stakeholders to address a lot of challenges such as duplication of efforts, products focused digital health transformation. And in fact, the Global Initiative on Digital Health's Secretariat will be hosted by WTO headquarters, and World Health Organization's headquarters is located in Geneva, Switzerland. Right. So the Secretariat of Global Initiative on Digital Health will be hosted by the World Health Organization at Geneva. And in fact, this Global Initiative on Digital Health align efforts to support global strategy on digital health 2020 to 2025, right? So some details with respect to World Health Organization. So World Health Organization is a UN specialized agency. So World Health Organization became functional on April 7, 1948. So it became functional from on April 7, 1948. And that particular day is celebrated as a World Health Day. So World Health Day is celebrated on April 7, right? So April 7 because it started functioning, or it became functional from April 7, 1948. On that day, World Health Day is celebrated, and it was established in 1948, and its headquarters is in Geneva, Switzerland. And the functions of World Health Organization include provide leadership on global health matters and shaping health research agenda, and also monitoring and assessing health trends across the world. So how many member countries World Health Organization has? 194 member countries, and India is also one of the member country of World Health Organization. And in fact, so World Health Organization regional offices in Southeast Asia is located in New Delhi, right? So World Health Organization's Southeast Asia's regional office is located in New Delhi, and World Health Assembly is considered as World Health Organization's decision-making body, and it is held every year at Geneva. And some of the major initiatives of the World Health Organization including UN Decade on Healthy Aging 2021 to 2030, UN Decade of Action on Nutrition 2016 to 2025, and GLASS Initiative on Antimicrobial Resistance. We have just discussed what is antimicrobial resistance, and World Health Organization 1+1 initiative with respect to elimination of the tuberculosis across the world, right? And next is Guinea worm disease. So this Guinea worm disease is also recently in news. So we'll try to understand what exactly is this Guinea worm disease. So Guinea worm disease is also an infection, and that is being caused by a parasite called Dracunculus medinensis. Okay, so Dracunculus medinensis is the parasite that causes this Guinea worm disease. So maybe it is not that important, but you need to remember this Guinea worm disease. And in fact, this Guinea worm disease spread by drinking water containing the Guinea worm larvae. So what is larvae? So larvae is an immature form of worm, and if you drink water that contains the immature form of this particular parasite, so you will be infected with this Guinea worm disease. And in fact, it mostly affects people in rural areas, deprived and isolated communities. They primarily depend on mainly open stagnant surface water sources like ponds. And it also infections in animals, particularly dogs, have been reported. So this Guinea worm disease is also reported in animals as well, and it is one of the neglected tropical diseases. I hope you knew what is a neglected tropical disease. So neglected tropical diseases are those diseases where only a small number of people are infected with these diseases. Apart from that, most of these neglected tropical diseases don't have a medicine, and in the map of global health, these neglected tropical disease don't get adequate attention, and most of the poor countries face face the problems from these neglected tropical diseases. No vaccines, no medicine, no adequate attention, focus. So therefore this guinea worm disease is also a neglected tropical disease, and as of now for this guinea worm disease there is no vaccine or drug to prevent disease and even treat the patients. Okay, so only symptoms can be treatable, and India successfully eradicated this guinea worm disease in the year 2000. So you need to understand that guinea worm disease is caused by a parasite named Pracunculus mendinensis, and it has no vaccine and no drug, only symptoms can be treatable, and India has already eliminated this guinea worm disease way back in the year 2000. So recently rhodamine is also in news, so we'll try to understand what is rhodamine B. So rhodamine B is an organic chloride salt, so that is being used as a coloring agent. Okay, so recently rhodamine B is in news, and many states also banned its use in Manchurian and even cotton candy. So this rhodamine B is an organic chloride salt, so that is being used as a coloring agent for the food. For example, in this cotton candy, to add color, this rhodamine B is being used. So this Manchurian, rhodamine B is being used as a coloring agent for dyeing in textile, paper, leather and paint industry. So these industries rhodamine B is extensively used, but apart from these industries, in an unconventional manner, in food products also rhodamine B is extensively used. However, rhodamine B has a lot of negative health impact and a lot of negative consequences. So if you look at those impacts on human health, the immediate effect will be stomach fullness, itching and the breathing problems with this rhodamine B, and in fact it also causes a potential chronic health impact such as liver dysfunction, intestine cancers, neurotoxicity and even kidney failures as well. So these are all the problems with the rhodamine B, but states like Karnataka have banned rhodamine B because in Manchurian and also cotton candies as a coloring agents this rhodamine B is being used. And apart from rhodamine B, there are other harmful chemicals are also which are being found in different states. For example, rhodamine B, it is being used as an industrial dye because of its low cost, and apart from that this rhodamine B is also used as a food coloring agent, and in fact it is an illegal practice by all means because it has been classified as a potential carcinogen because it causes cancer by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, and its prolonged use in food can even lead to liver dysfunction and cancer. And next, yellow or sunset yellow. So it is also a synthetic dye which is also used in food, drugs and other cosmetics. And if this sunset yellow is consumed alone or combination with other dyes, this can cause allergic or pseudo-allergic reactions and severe reactions among asthma and urticaria patients. Next, carmozine. It is also a synthetic food dye and it is also called a food red. And in fact, International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies it as a category 3 carcinogen, and a prolonged consumption can affect liver, kidneys, and it can also trigger behavioral changes among children besides triggering skin rashes and also respiratory allergies. And then the tetragyne. So this is also used as a food coloring agent. So a yellow nitrous derivative compound, and it is used as a synthetic food coloring chemical, and prolonged intake can cause angioedema and eczema, bronchitis, headaches, and it can also affect thyroid gland and hormones. So these are harmful chemicals which are being used in food products as the coloring agents, so therefore you have to remember them. okay, sunset yellow and carmozine, rhodamine B and tratrajain as well. And next, Kala Ajar. So Kala Ajar is also a disease which is in news in recent times. So India hit the target towards eliminating Kala Ajar for the first time in the year 2023. So you should remember this. So India hit the target of eliminating Kala Ajar by the year 2023, reporting less than 1 case per 10,000 population across all blocks in India. And some details with respect to this Kala Ajar disease. So this Kala Ajar disease is also known as a visceral leishmaniasis, and it is a protozoan parasite disease. So this Kala Ajar is caused by a protozoan parasite. So what is the causing agent of Kala Ajar? So infected female lotamine sandfly. So that is the main causing agent of this Kala Ajar disease. So this infected female sandfly bites you, then this can infect this Kala Ajar disease among human beings. What are the symptoms? Irregular fever, weight loss, enlargement of the spleen, liver and anemia are some of the symptoms of Kala Ajar disease. And in fact, this disease is endemic in some states of India such as Bihar, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. And there are number of other areas in different parts of the world which are also affected by this Kala Ajar disease, such as Brazil, East Africa and India. However, one thing that you need to remember, that India hit the target towards eliminating Kala Ajar for the first time in the year 2023, right? So you can go through the signs and symptoms of the Kala Ajar. So an infected child with the Kala Ajar looks like this, and in fact it is a progressing indigenous disease. It is caused by a protozoan parasite genus Leishmania. In India, Leishmania donovani is only parasite that causes this Kala Ajar disease, and this parasite primarily infects reticuloendothelial system, right? So how this disease transmits? Sandflies of genus Pletomus argentapus, only known vector of this Kala Ajar in India. And in fact, Indian Kala Ajar has a unique epidemiological feature of being anthropootic, and female sandflies pick up parasites while feeding on infected human host. So these are some aspects with respect to Kala Ajar disease, but basically it is not all important, right? So it is caused by protozoan parasite, and India hit the target, and some states are endemic to this Kala Ajar disease, right? So those things that you should understand and you should remember, and that's all. So maglev. So maglev is a magnetic levitation technology, right? So these maglev trains are extensively found in China, right? So recently China has achieved a significant breakthrough, because a maglev train of China surpassed its previous record of 623 km/h. So these maglev trains are world's fastest trains. Okay, so these maglev trains generally they generally work on these magnetic levitation principle. So maglev is a system in which a vehicle runs levitated, right? So they are not actually on the tracks, but they are above tracks. They are suspended above tracks. So they run levitated from the guideway. So this guideway is corresponding to the rail tracks of the conventional railways, right? So this is the guideway, right? And the train is levitated. So in maglev, superconducting magnets suspend the air above a U-shaped concrete gateway. So this is a U-shaped concrete gateway, and superconducting magnets generally suspend the train above this U-shaped concrete gateway. So like ordinary magnets, these magnets also repel one another when matching poles face each other, right? So these are matching poles. So when they face each other, so they just repel each other. So that's how this train would be levitated and moved with one of the fastest trains. In fact, maglev is the fastest train in the world. So China has achieved the record of running trains with such a huge speed, right? So that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much.